is Mark Gruenhied. I'm an employment specialist at the BC Centre for Ability in Adult Services. And today I'm going to be talking with you about choosing, getting, and keeping a job. In other words, all the finer points of succeeding in employment. The first point I'd like to make is that in order to succeed in employment, you need to have a certain degree of self-awareness. The key to success in employment and life in general is knowing about yourself and knowing what to do in different situations. Most jobs are comprised of tasks, but they're also comprised of social interaction. And getting the tasks right is only half the battle. Working successfully involves a number of factors. Staying focused, following directions, listening to feedback, remembering tasks and routines, knowing when to do things and how to do them, and maintaining a sustained effort for a period of time. And above all, it often involves getting along with others and knowing what to do in social situations. So, in other words, learning is an integral and important part of any job. Some challenges that typically come up in learning a new job are sometimes it takes a bit longer to learn new tasks. Some people have difficulty following directions. Others have difficulty remembering things or sustaining attention. Jobs are not a place for rigid thinking, as in there's only one way to do something. Often in an employment situation, you need to be flexible, and flexible thinking is a key to success. As well, not communicating or keeping thoughts to yourself can be harmful in a job situation. You want to be as open and communicative as possible. So flexible thinking is a skill that's definitely worth learning. Thinking of different ways to do something and taking on different points of view are key to success. Being aware that the impression that you leave with a coworker is one that will be lasting is important as well. We can tie in the principles of social and emotional learning, and they work well in the context of employment. In other words, knowing about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and awareness of your surroundings, building relationship skills, and knowing how to make responsible decisions correctly. Let's talk a little bit about choosing a job. If you're going to work, you probably want to pick something you think you would enjoy doing. It should suit your skills and abilities. And it's okay if you haven't done it before, as long as you think you're capable. The important thing is to stay positive and believe in your abilities. It's okay to try things out in a volunteer setting. Sometimes shadowing somebody on a job or visiting someone on a work site can be helpful as well. That's a good way to find out if a job is interesting or suitable. Getting a job is a little more difficult, but not impossible. Usually involves an application process, either filling out an application form, sending in a resume, applying online nowadays is often the case. It's okay to get some help with applications, resumes, and cover letters. There's lots of services out there. The BC Centre for Ability is one place that you can get assistance for that, but there are lots of other agencies and employment services out there to choose from. When we're talking about applications and interviews, it's important to focus on what you can do and not what you can't do. You can draw on personal life experience, doesn't have to be work experience, and try and sell yourself to an employer based on what you can do and the things you've done in the past successfully. When it comes to a job interview, maybe the scariest part of finding a job, it's important to listen carefully to the questions that are being asked and give appropriate answers. It's all right to rehearse interview questions ahead of time. In fact, I recommend it highly. And oftentimes, interview questions are based on behaviors or events that have happened to you in the past. So once again, if you draw on life experience and or work experience, maybe even experiences you had in school, that can be helpful. A typical behavioral question goes something like this. Give me an example of a time when you had to do something. The correct response to a question like that uses an actual activity or event that happened and the outcome. So you want to think of something that happened to you, think of how you worked through it, and think of the positive outcome that comes out. If you don't know the answer to an interview question, it's okay to say no. It's definitely better than making something up. And if you get the opportunity, ask questions back to the interviewer. Not necessarily only about how much the salary is or whether or not you get lots of holiday time. Better to ask questions specific to the job and think of a few ahead of the interview. Think of things that you might want to ask somebody in a job interview. Another thing you could try is asking for an opportunity to try out the job. Work trials are a very good way to determine if there's a fit for you and for the employer. Think carefully about the impression you leave with the interviewer. Once again, the more self-awareness and self-management that you can apply to this, the better. In other words, think carefully about the conversation you're having with the interviewer. Try to be on task and appropriate with the answers you give, and think hard about the impression you're leaving. If you feel more comfortable with someone in the interview, the more comfortable you feel in the interview, the more comfortable the interview will be. If you require somebody to be in on the interview with you, that can work as well. I've been in many situations with an individual in an interview where I have been a third party, listened to the conversation, sometimes helped an individual along. And employers are usually open to this as well, if you think that would be helpful. Let's talk about disclosure. In other words, disclosure of any disability, illness, injury that you may have. Now, this should relate to your ability to perform duties of the job. It does not require a full medical disclosure. What is important is it should identify your ability to do the job and any accommodations you might need to do the job better. So you can talk about what the nature of your challenge is and how it can be accommodated, although sometimes you may not know. But you need to be able to assess your own limitations as best you can. You want to stress in particular that you want to succeed and you believe that you can do the job. But if there are things that you are concerned about and you want to address them, it's okay to bring them up with an employer if it's done in a positive way. In other words, focusing on what you can do and then bringing up perhaps some of the deficits you may have in hopes that there's a way to accommodate them. You want to stress that you want to succeed and that you have abilities. You may want to prepare a script or even what we would call an elevator speech. So a short description of your disability and how you may be able to accommodate, or how an employer may be able to accommodate it on the job. And if you don't know, it might be a good discussion to get into around accommodation. Sometimes assessments can be helpful as well. There are a number of assessments out there, such as functional capacity evaluations that you could use to determine job fit. But in general, it comes back to self-awareness. The more you know about your own condition and your own challenges, the better you'll do in a job interview, and the better you'll be able to explain it to an employer. And above all, remember to believe in yourself, because you can do these things as long as you believe you can. And if there's a few things that can be helpful as far as accommodating you in a job, it's okay to ask for that.